All right, now we're going to be looking at a quick little video to talk about the trends that you may have noticed if you were building all your atoms. Remember, in a previous video we looked at how to build up an atom. Remember, we said that when you go from one element to another, you had to add a proton and you had to add an electron. Now, why was that? Well, because it was a number of protons which determines what type of element you have. And of course, because you're adding an extra proton, in order to maintain a neutral atom, you have to add another electron to balance all the charges out. So we started off with hydrogen, and then we added a proton, an electron, and we got to helium, and we said that was full. Then when we went to the next element, lithium, we had to go into the next row. So this is row 1. We went into row 2, and we saw that as soon as you go down to row 2, you had to add an extra electron shell. Okay, and then we added electrons and protons going all the way across until we got to neon, where it was full. The second shell was full. How many electrons did it have? 8. That's right. So we were full with 2 electrons with the first shell. We were full with 8 electrons in the second shell. That's what we've done. Now, if I want to go to the next one for sodium, I'm going down into the next period, the next row, so that means I have to add another shell. So we have 3 shells now, and then I follow that same pattern. Add a proton plus an electron, and we keep going across until we get to argon, and then argon is full there as well. So you can start to see some patterns forming here, right? All of these elements down here have full shells. All of these elements going down here have 1 electron in their outer shell. You notice that there's a pattern that every time we go into a new row, we add a new shell. So that's why we call this the periodic table of elements. There is some trends that periodically repeat. So make sure you're writing these down. So these are some of the trends. The atomic number is equal to the number of protons in the nucleus, but also in a neutral atom, the number of electrons, right? In a neutral atom. Okay, and what's another trend? Each row is a new shell. Okay, oh, look at that, I forgot an L there. All right, let's put it in there. The first shell is full when you have 2 electrons, and I'm just going to do a little symbol like that, an E with a dash. Then the second shell is full when you have 8 electrons. Okay. Now the third shell is full. Here is where we start to add more information. We're going to find out that it's not just another 8, right? Because the third shell, we start adding more electrons in there. And so we could use a little formula to tell us the total. So if we go 2n squared, where n is the number of shells. So if I go the first shell, I put 1 in there. 2 times 1 is 2. But we've got to square that first. So let's go 1 squared is 1, and then 2 times 1 is 2. And so we have 2 electrons. If I put the second shell in there, 2 squared is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Beautiful, we've got that. What about if I put the third shell in there? Well, 3 squared is 9, and then 2 times 9 is 18. So I would have 18 electrons in this third shell. How does that work? Well, let's have a look at our periodic table. Here's our third shell here. All right. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, that occupies 8, right? But there's still 10 missing. What's going on? Well, we learn more about what that is in more advanced chemistry videos, but it's got to do with our transition element blocks. Okay, notice how many transition elements we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 of them. So that's where some 10 electrons can come from. But we're not going to learn about that in detail until later on, okay? Later on in your studies. For the moment, the main point I want you to remember is the shell is full when it has 2 in the first, and then when you have 8 in the others. The outside shell is 8. That's it for building up trends. I'll see you in another video where we keep exploring the wonders of chemistry and get your brain cells happening, and make sure you revise everything we've talked about. See you then. Now that we've watched this video, it's important to quickly finish with some really key things about learning and how to improve. The first thing is, now that you've watched this video, can you summarize the main points? Without even looking at your notes, can you recall and tell someone the main points from this video? Can you define the key terms? Can you draw diagrams to explain what you've just learnt? And if you can, well done, because it's in the first step into your brain. To keep it in your brain, you need to constantly revise. Do you have notes with diagrams, or have you just watched the video all the way through and put one sentence there? You may need to go back and revise it if that's the case. Have you got highlighted key terms and definitions in your notes? And do you have questions for yourself or your teacher? Was there something in the video that didn't quite make sense? Write a question about it. If there's something, a term, a word that we're unsure of, write a question about it, and therefore go and find out what that means. It's all about making sense of the material. And of course, lastly, but most importantly, do you have a plan to revise this material? You're not just going to watch it once and then stop. You're going to constantly come back to it. Are you making flashcards? Are you doing active recall techniques? So check out all the study videos as well to ensure that you will remember this material, and I'll see you in the next video.